Hello everyone. So in this lecture we will start our new chapter, vapor compression refrigeration system. Okay. So in this we will first start with our base simple or standard, simple, or we can call standard vapor compression refrigeration system, VCRS. Okay. So the simple VCRS includes of 4 components. Okay. I will show you these components to you. Okay, so these are our 4 components for our simple VCRS. Now this here is called condenser. This is compressor. This is evaporator. Okay, and this here is expansion valve. Now since there are 4 devices, so there should be 4 processes. Okay, so process number 1. So and of course, as I mentioned earlier, that your clockwise cycles are work producing and anti-clockwise cycles are work absorbing. So here this will be our anti-clockwise cycle. Okay, I think you get this point. Now I will like tell the process name. So process 1 to 2 is our compression. Okay, process 2 to 3 is in condenser. Okay, process 3 to 4 is in our expansion valve, and process 4 to 1 is the one in our evaporator. Okay, so process 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 1. Okay, so I will mention all the processes, what are the processes called. Okay, so this is process 1 to 2 is called reversible adiabatic compression. Reversible adiabatic compression. Now process 2 to 3, since the process is in condenser, it is known as constant pressure heat rejection. Constant pressure heat rejection. Okay, process 3 to 4, it is in expansion valve. This is our irreversible process. Okay, irreversible expansion, and this is also known as throttling. Okay, now process 4 to 1 is our constant pressure heat addition. I hope you get this point. Okay, so this evaporator is where we keep our things which we have to cool down. Okay, and this condenser is how our refrigerator exchanges heat with surrounding. Okay, I hope you understand these points. Okay, now I will draw this simple VCRS cycle on TS and PS diagram. Okay, so this is, let's say this is our TS diagram. Okay, and this here is our saturation curve. Okay, Okay, now let's say this is our pH curve we will draw here. H P. Okay, and this is our saturation curve here. Okay, okay, now we will draw both the curves, like on both the plots we will draw how our simple VCS cycle will look like. Okay, so this is our point 1. Let's say it is a saturated vapor point. Okay, compressor entry, and it will expand from point, it will compress from point 1 to point 2. Okay, from point 2 to point 3, this is our heat reaction at constant pressure. So this is our constant pressure which is shown on our TH diagram. Okay, sorry, point 2, point 3. Okay, now when it exits the condenser, it will be at saturated liquid state. Okay, now from saturated liquid it will expand irreversible expansion. There is throttling. Okay, so this will be a reversible process, so it should be something like this. Okay, okay, it will reach some point 4, and from point 4 to point 1 it will like, so since this is okay, okay, this is point 4. Okay, so our 1 to 2 is compressor, 2 to 3 is condenser, 3 to 4 is throttling, and 4 to 1 is evaporator. Okay, so this this cycle represent here our standard or a simple VCRS cycle system, VCRS cycle. Okay, now if we talk about on pH diagram, so we know that point 1 to 2, so this is point 1. Okay, so point 1 to 2 is on our is a constant entropy. So constant entropy line is on pH diagram is shown like this. Okay, now 2 to 3 is on our constant pressure line. Okay, so since y-axis is our constant pressure line, pressure, so it will be like this. Okay, now this is point 3, and 3 to 4 is known as expansion. Okay, throttling, 3 to 4, and 4 to 1 is evaporator. Okay, now one thing I would like to mention here, that here 3 to 4 we have shown in dotted form. We know that for reversible process, for irreversible process we show them by dotted line, and for reversible we show them by continuous line. Okay, but if we look here, then our along the process our enthalpy is constant at every point. Okay, we know the state at each point. Okay, so here we have drawn since so such that we have drawn here a straight line here. Okay, I hope you get this point. Okay, now we will be moving to our next item. Let's say that we will calculate what should be the equation. Okay, for each of these components. Okay, now if we talk about evaporator, let's first talk about evaporator. So before that, let's write our steady flow energy equation first. Steady flow energy equation. Okay, so as a steady flow energy equation is H1 plus C1 square by 2 plus GZ1 plus Q is equal to H2 plus C2 square by 2 plus GZ2 plus W. Okay, but one thing I should first mention you, that in case of, okay, let's write it in like terms of kilojoule. Okay, so we multiply this by m. Okay, this we will also multiply by m, and here we will add capital Q. Okay, now if mass flow rate is the should be here. Okay, heat rate, mass flow rate, and rate of work done. Okay, now if we talk about your process in your refrigerator, so we here there is one consideration, that is change in kinetic and potential energy are neglected. So this should be, both should be 0. Here also this should be 0, this should be 0. Okay, so from here we get m dot h1 plus q dot is equal to m dot h2 plus w. Okay, Now, using this equation, we will find what should be the exact equation, exact calculation we should do in each of the each component. Okay, so we will start with our first component. Let's say our first component it is evaporator. So in case of evaporator, we know that our work done is equal to 0. Okay, so we can find Q dot is equal to m dot. Okay, and here the process is from 4 to 1. Okay, so we will write H4 minus, or let's write in terms of like inlet and outlet. Okay, so I will write in terms of inlet, 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 and here I will write it as outlet, outlet, outlet. Okay, so here we will get HI, and here I will get H node. Okay, so for evaporator we can say that process from 4 to 1, and 1 is in 4 is inlet and 1 is outlet. So from here I will get Q dot is equal to m dot H node. So m dot H node minus m dot Hi. So H node is outlet, so H1 minus H4. Okay, this is the equation for our evaporator. Okay, next if we talk about compressor. If we talk about compressor, we know that still since the process is our adiabatic, so our heat will be 0. Heat is equal to 0, so we will find minus W is equal to m dot H node minus Hi, and here H node is 2, Hi is 1, so m dot times of H2 minus H1. Okay, now this minus W, since the compressor is work consuming this device, so we can say that work done for compressor is equal to m dot H2 minus H1. Okay, so this is our equation for compressor. Now if we look for third device, let's say is condenser. Okay, so condenser, if we talk about condenser, then we can write like here also in condenser also our work done is equal to 0. So it will be again our Q dot is equal to m dot times of H outlet minus inlet. Okay, now if you look at condenser, the outlet is 3 and inlet is, so from here if we write Q dot is equal to m dot H node minus Hi, our H node is 3 and inlet is 2, S3 minus H2. Okay, now if you look here, this is 0.3, this is 0.2, so we can tell that H3 is less than H2, so this heat should be our negative. Okay, because in condenser heat is ejected to the system, so heat condenser is equal to, or this can be written as minus Q condenser. So heat condenser is equal to it can be written as m dot H2 minus H3. Okay, next process is our throttling. Okay, fourth process is throttling. If we talk about throttling, in throttling we know that our work done and heat transfer both are 0. Okay, so we will get from here our Hi is equal to H node, that is S3 is equal to H4. Okay, so from here we can find that the COP, we can write COP of this cycle. Let me write COP is equal to refrigeration effect, that is also our desired effect upon work supplied. Okay, work compressor. Okay, now if we look at the refrigeration effect, this is m dot H1 minus H4 upon m dot H2 minus H1. We can write it as H1 minus H4 upon H2 minus H1. Okay, so this is our COP for refrigeration system. Okay, I hope you understood this point. Okay, now we see here that in TH diagram, since this is we are taking you say expansion valve, or you can say throttling. So there is some amount of refrigeration work. Let's say that if the system would have moved like this. Okay, let's say if we have installed a throttling device here, so then that part, this part will be our our refrigeration effect. Okay, but in case of throttling, what is happening? Our refrigeration effect is decreasing. Okay, so there arises the question, why a throttle expansion valve is used in VCRS and not a expander. So our question is, why VCRS in VCRS why in VCRS throttle expansion is used, why in VCRS throttle ex expansion valve is used and not a or an expander. Okay, now what we will do, we will make both diagrams here. Okay, so let me copy it from here first. So this is our TS diagram with throttling. Okay, now if I now let's say that you have similar cycle, but here what we have done, we have, instead of using an expand and throttling device, we have used expander. Okay, so this is our 3 to 4 dash. Okay, and this is 4 dash to 1. Okay, so we have get increased value of refrigeration effect. Okay, but what happens in here, let's say that work done by expander. So if we talk about work done by expander, is equal to, so since expander is our open system, we write it as VDP. Okay, now here V is off, since it is an at a saturated liquid state, is VF. Okay, now since we know that our value of VF is very small, very small. Okay, and if we talk, let's say here we also talk about a work done by compressor, absorbed by the compressor, so we will also write VDP. Okay, and of course there is a minus sign here in both signs. Okay, so here V will be of VG of gas. So if we compare both, we will find that and one more thing, DP for both are same. Okay, so this is the constant pressure line, this is the constant pressure line, so DP for both are same. Now VF, here we can say, since VF is very less than VG, we can write then work done by expander is very less than work done by compressor. Okay, I hope you get this point. Okay, although the work done through this if we talk about throttling, so work done by throttle is equal to 0, we know that. Okay, but what happens here, that although this throttle work done is 0, but here if we install an expander, then our system will become bulky. And if we calculate, we have calculated COP for this, so COP comes out to be H1 minus H4 upon H2 minus H1. H1 minus H4 upon H1 minus H2. Sorry, H2 minus H1. Okay, now if we write COP for here, then COP will be what we supplied. We supplied, of course, H1 minus H4, H4 dash here. Okay, we get this effect. Okay, upon what we supplied here our 1 to 2, but work done by compressor, but here one more term is here, that is work done by expander. Okay, but since expander term is very small, so this can be neglected. So we can see, so although we can see that our value of COP here is increasing, COP is more, and here COP is less, but this increase is not significant, not too significant. Although it's looking like this is amount of this amount of our enthalpy change is more is available, but what happens in actual life, there isn't too much slope. Okay, say this is somewhere like this. Okay, So the change is very small, okay. That is not in compare, if we compare the overall scenario, then this increase on COP is not beneficial for us all, okay. What are the problems occurring? So in problems we can say that due to, like, if we install the expander, so expander is very similar to compressor, so we can say that increase in cost. What else? Increase in cost, noise increase, system noise increases. Next we can say space requirement increases, okay. Next we can say maintenance increases, okay. So due to these reasons it is avoidable, so I mean it is not advisable to use an expander in practical vapor compression refrigeration system, okay. So I hope you understood this question as well, okay. Now if we move to next topic, that is our devices used in vapor compression refrigeration system, okay. So we'll see which devices are used here, okay. So first device is throttling device. I mentioned you earlier, okay. So in throttling device, there are many types of throttling device, okay. So there are two purposes for importantly two purpose for which we use throttling device, okay. So for throttling device, the purposes are, let's say purpose number one is reduce pressure of refrigerant, or we can write like simply write reduce pressure from condenser to pressure evaporator, okay. Now of course this pressure reduction will be of your working fluid, okay, refrigerant, that is. Point number two, if we talk about it is required to meet the refrigerant load. And what does it mean by refrigerant load? It means that it requires to regulate the amount of refrigerant, the mass flow rate. What should be the mass flow rate, such that according to our requirement, the corresponding mass flow rate should be provided, okay. Now now we will see what are different types of, like say your throttling devices, okay. So first type of throttling device is called capillary tubes. Okay, capillary tubes, this is like small diameter long tubes, and here your pressure drop occurs due to your friction, or head loss occurs due to friction, okay. Now if we talk about like it controls mass flow rate, okay, according to requirement, okay, using small capacity systems. Small capacity system means that room ACs, home ACs, it is generally of 1 to 3 tons, okay. So in those, or household refrigerator which you use, so this is used in this type of system, okay, capillary tubes. Next, if we talk about, it is constant pressure expansion valve. Or it is also called automatic expansion valve. So what does it does, like it maintains pressure of evaporator is equal to constant, okay. Second point, if we talk about, so like Like in this, there is a problem here. So it does not controls mass flow rate. Like capillary tube was controlling mass flow rate, does not control mass flow rate. Okay, so we will set this, like we can set this constant pressure expansion valve at a constant value, and on that basis only it will supply your mass flow rate. Okay, now it can't meet with our variable load. Okay, so therefore it is rarely used. Okay, if we talk about next, so next is the third type of throttling device, that is thermostatic expansion valve, or also known as TX valve. Okay, so it maintains your maintains varying load. Okay, there is one more point, like here if we talk about your like it is also I mean maintain constant pressure or pressure drop, or causes pressure drop. Okay, now there is one more type, that is float valve. Okay, so for float valve is a ordinary type, like it is used in our refrigerant chambers. Okay, and this is generally, float valve is generally used in our high capacity uh, plants. Okay, so it's like this in a closed chamber. So let's say this is our liquid level. Okay, and so here we will hinge let's say this is a rectangular bore, and this here it will be our connected to our bowl. This is our hollow flow, or we can call it float. Okay, this is connected to our float. Now as the our level increases or decreases, it will control the mass flow rate of your refrigerant. Okay, so if level decreases, so it means that in the evaporator the amount of like mass flow rate required is less. Okay, refrigerant required is less, because less amount of less amount of substance is to be cooled. Okay, now if let's say that float valve moves upward, then we have to provide more mass flow rate. Okay, I hope you understood this point. Okay, now if we have discussed the throttling device, next we will discuss about compressors. Okay, so in compressor are basically of three types. Okay, so in these systems basically, sorry, so in these systems there is basically our centrifugal compressor used. Okay, like for a small system, we could talk about the small systems. So we know that a compressor are of two types, basically reciprocating, and these are used for small scale, like home AC and your domestic refrigerator. Okay, okay. And if we talk about centrifugal, so centrifugal is used in large systems, like large plants. We will use centrifugal compressors there. Okay, although there is one more type of compressor, that is your axial compressor. This is that are not used in case of your refrigeration. Okay, now if we talk about classification of compressor, so compressor are classified into three parts. Okay, so first one is hermetically sealed compressors. So these hermetically sealed. Okay, let me write all three first. Second is semi hermetically sealed compressor. and there is a third, that is our open type compressor. Okay, so we will discuss each of. Now if we talk about hermetically sealed compressor, so in hermetically sealed compressor, both our compressor plus motor is sealed inside and closed in casing. Okay, if we talk about semi hermetical, so hermetically talk about this, let's say this is our closed encasing, but here we have installed compressor. Okay, and there are some, like, it is not completely sealed. Okay, so here this is leak proof. Okay, this is, and that is of 100%. Okay, here this is not 100% leak proof. Okay, so this is our motor, so our compressor plus motor. Okay, but there are some holes provided, like some area that from here we can clean the system. Okay, from inside. Okay, open type system, both are we can say that both compressor here, let's say this is compressor and this is connected to motor. Okay, and it is not leak proof. Okay, this is connected using our we can say our belt drive or chain drive. Okay, or couplings can also be used here. So there is frequent, we can say that due to this, that compression being open, there is frequent leakage of refrigerant. Okay, okay. So this open type system is used in very big systems. Okay, very large capacity systems. Hermetically sealed are used in our home refrigerators generally. Okay. Now moving to our. Okay, so I think this will be all. Both two we have already discussed about condenser and expansion devices. Okay. Now we will see what is our clearance volumetric efficiency term. Okay, what is volumetry efficiency? So let's assume an reciprocating compressor. Okay, so if we draw a PV diagram for reciprocating compressor, so let's say this is our pressure axis, this is our volume axis. Okay, so this is, let's say there are two pressures. Okay, sorry. Sorry about that. Let me draw it more thoroughly. Okay. Okay, so this is our, you can say that this is our reciprocating PV cycle for reciprocating compressor. Okay, so in this, here at lower pressure P1 we get suction. Okay, let's say from lower pressure P1 we will compress it to pressure P2, that is higher pressure P2.2. Okay, now from 2 to 3 this will be our constant pressure process. Okay, now from 3 to 4 will be our again our additive process. Okay, now here at point 4 this will be our, so this is our compression. Okay, this was our heat addition, if you say. Okay, now here this is, if we talk about this, then this is our expansion process. Okay, now the expansion, this is our suction. 4 to 1 is suction, compression, this is our release, sorry, compression and holding, then our release. Okay, expansion. Okay, I hope you get these four processes. Okay, so you know that in respiratory compressor there are four processes. First is your compression, the gas intake will be your compressed, and then after the compressed gas will be discharged from, let's say, from 2 to 3 at constant volume or constant pressure, or volume is decreasing. Okay, gas discharge from 2 to 3, and then the piston, there will be expansion, that is uh, it will like expand the remaining gas from 3 to 4. Okay, and at point 4 our entry valve, inlet valve is open, and at that constant pressure P1, the volume is filled. Okay, with the new air. Okay, so this 1 2 3 4 is our respirating process. Okay, now if we talk about let's say actual volume of suction, so suction volume, actual suction volume is this is our actual suction volume, that is equal to V1 minus V4. Okay, okay, now exactly this term here, if we talk about, let's say, from 4, from here this point 3 to point 1, so this term is called Vs, that is swept volume. Okay, this here represents our motion of piston. Okay, so piston will cover the whole Vs distance. Okay, and this will be equal to V1 minus V3. Okay, but the actual suction is V1 minus V4. Okay, now this here is called clearance volume, that is Vc is equal to V3. Okay, now if we want to calculate, let's say calculate the work done of this reciprocating compressor, but before that let me write what are these points, some points. Okay, let's say that the cylinder having length L, length L cylinder, so length of not the length of cylinder, this is L is length of stroke. Okay, D, let's say dia of bore, I mean dia of cylinder, so this is also called as bore. Okay, Vc is known as clearance volume, as I have mentioned earlier, and this value is equal to V3. Okay, Vs is our swept volume, or is also known as piston displacement. Okay, is equal to V1 minus V3. Okay, if we talk about Va, this is our suction volume, actual suction, and this is equal to V1 minus V4. Okay, now there is a term called clearance ratio. Now this clearance ratio is represented by C and is termed as clearance volume upon swept volume. Okay, Vc upon Vs. Clearance ratio is equal to clearance volume upon swept volume. Okay, how much percentage of the swept, I mean how much volume is the like how does the clearance volume compare to your swept volume. Okay, Vc C is equal to Vc upon Vs. Okay, clearance volume upon swept volume. Next, if we want to like calculate this area, this work done from the total work done, so we have to calculate this area. Okay, this area here will be your work done net. Okay, work done W. Okay, so when we calculate this area, we will get work done is equal to N upon N minus 1 times, sorry, P1 into V1 minus V4 into P2 by P1 की power N minus 1 by N minus 1. Okay, so this is our formula for work done, and this and we will like see the derivation in our power plant subject. Okay, I won't be doing a derivation here. Okay, so this your V1 minus V4 is your actual volume. Okay, now comes the most important topic, that is your or let's it is white only. So most important topic is volumetric efficiency. This is constantly being used in your questions regarding compressor. Okay, volumetric efficiency. So first we will see what is volumetric efficiency. So actually volumetric efficiency is represented by eta V, is the ratio of actual suction divided by swept volume is equal to VA upon VS. Okay, now if we derive it, so we can write VA is equal, so eta U is given as VA upon VS. We know VA is equal to V1 minus V4 upon V1 minus V3. Okay, now what we will do, we will add and subtract V3 in the numerator. Okay, so this will be again the same, so we can write from here V1 minus V3 upon V1 minus V3, that will be our 1 plus, now what we will left here with V3 minus V4 upon V1 minus V3. Now we can write further is 1 plus V3 upon V1 minus V3 minus V4 upon V1 minus V3. Okay, now this term here V3 upon 1 minus V3 is can be termed as VC upon VS, that is our C. Okay, so we can write it as 1 plus C. Okay, and if we want to write this minus, if we want to write let's multiply this term by V3 and divide by V3. Okay, so V3 minus upon 1 minus V will be termed as C into V4 by V3. Okay, so our eta V term is also represented by 1 plus C, or we can write here as is equal to VA upon VS is equal to 1 plus C minus C times of V4 by V3. Now what is V4? V4 is suction, and this ratio. Okay, so we know that for adiabatic process, we know that T2 by T1 is equal to, or we can write this process is expressed by PV की power n is equal to constant, and this is also here is denoted by PV की power n is equal to constant. Okay, so if we do, so we can find from here that this V3 by V4 can be written as P3 by P4 की power 1 minus n, and P3 and P4 are equal to P2 and P1 respectively. So we can write it as equal to 1 plus C minus C times of P2 by P1 की power 1 by n. Okay, I hope you understood this point. Okay, so this is our this is very important topic here. Okay, and these relations are also very important. Okay, I hope you understood the topic of volumetric efficiency. Okay, now we will be moving to next topic, that is effect of operating condition on COP of VCRS. Okay, effect of operating conditions on COP of vapor compression refrigeration system. Okay, cycle, or we can say that vapor compression cycle. Okay, VC cycle. So if we talk about this, there are various operating conditions like evaporator pressure is our condition, condenser pressure is our condition. Okay, so these are conditions. We will discuss a few more conditions in our in this process topic, in this topic. Okay, now let's start with first, that is effect of decrease in evaporator pressure. Okay, now for these studies we will be using our pH diagram. Okay, so first condition is effect of decrease in evaporator pressure. So what happens if we decrease the evaporator pressure? This pressure 4 to 1 represent our evaporator pressure. Okay, so this is initial pressure, let's say it at P1. Okay, this pressure was at P2. Okay, let's say we have decreased the evaporator pressure. Okay, so since we have decreased the evaporator pressure, our cycle will turn like this. Okay, this, and from here this will be compression air. Okay, so this will be 4 dash, this will be 1 dash. Okay, and this pressure will be P1 dash. Okay, so let's say what are the conditions here that we get here. Okay, so what condition do we get here? So the first is as the evaporator pressure decreases, first we see that our refrigeration effect, or let me write it green. So our refrigeration effect decreases. We can say that initially this was this much amount. Okay, H2 minus H1 होता है ना यहाँ पे, this amount, and so we can see that initially this is our refrigeration effect. So refrigeration effect was H1 minus H4. Okay, so initially this was our refrigeration effect. Now after, if we decrease the evaporator pressure, our refrigeration effect decreased. Okay, now this amount is our refrigeration effect. Okay, so our refrigeration effect value decreases, first point. If we talk about second point, if we talk about work done by compressor work, so we can say that compressor work, what is compressor work? It is H2 minus H1. So this was H2 and this was H1. So from here we can say that H2 minus H1 is less than H2 minus H1 dash. So work done of compressor hour increases. Okay, so if we talk about, let's say, specific volume, so we get that specific since we have moved like along your let's say on the saturation line, we have decreased the pressure. Okay, so our vapor our specific volume increases. Okay, so from here we can write that V1 dash is greater than V1. Okay, I hope you get this point. Okay, and since the specific volume increases, so because of this we have to increase the compressor size. Because we have to like do the all like we have to keep the mass flow rate same. Okay, so to keep the same mass flow rate, if your specific volume is more, then we get the more volume. Okay, and since the volume is more, so compressor side should be increased to accommodate the volume. Okay, now if we talk about volumetric efficiency, so we know that volumetric efficiency is given by 1 plus C minus C times of P2 by P1, or we can say P condenser upon P evaporator power 1 by N. Okay, now from here we can see that since our P1 value is decreased, so this whole value is increased, so this will decrease, this whole term will decrease, so so volumetric efficiency will decrease. Okay, now if I talk about next point is COP. So COP is equal to desired effect, that is refrigeration work upon work done by compressor. Okay, now from here we can see that refrigeration effect decreases, work done increases, so our COP is decreases. Okay, so I hope you understood the effect of decrease in evaporator pressure. Okay, now if we talk about, let's say, your increase in condenser pressure, if we increase the condenser pressure, let me copy this here. Okay, so let me write point number 2. So this is our increase in, this is we're talking about condenser pressure. Okay, so this is our original pH curve. Okay, for a simple VCRS 0.34, 0.122. Okay, now what is mentioned here, that we have to increase our condenser pressure. So condenser is 2 to 3. Okay, let's say we have increased our pressure, condenser pressure. Let me do it with, okay, red. So if we increase the condenser pressure, so this, let's say we have increased it to this point. Okay, okay, so let's say this is our, so this was our original condenser pressure, that was P2. This is our new condenser pressure, that is P2 dash. Okay, and this is condenser pressure is our P1, evaporator pressure is P1, which is remains same this time. Okay, now if we like at 4 point, we will process with our throttling operation. So we will get 3 to 4 dash. Okay, now 4 dash to 1, and from 1 to again 2 dash. Let me make it clear here. This is 0.1 to 2 dash. Okay, so this is our new operation. Okay, so from here we can see that our reflection effect, we can see that originally it was H1 minus H4, this time it is H1 minus H4 dash, so reflection effect decreases. Okay, earlier it was also decreasing. Now if you talk about work done by compressor, so this compressor work increases. You can say originally it was H2 minus H1, now it is H2 dash minus H1. So this size is increasing. Okay, now if we talk about a specific volume, so specific volume at our inlet, at this point 1 inlet, this is our inlet to compressor. So at this point, this point remains same, so no change, same. Okay, so V1, this will remain same, hence compressor size remains same. Okay, now if we talk about eta volume, then we, from here we can say that P2 value is increasing, so this whole value is increasing. So if it, though our volumetric efficiency of compressor will be decreasing. Okay, if we talk about COP, then COP we see that the reflection effect is decreasing and work done compressor increasing, so COP is also decreasing. Okay, now I hope you get this point. Okay, now if we move to our third operating condition, let's say change it, let's say third is effect of suction vapor superheat. So before the compressor, if our system is superheated, okay, so we will see this effect here. So this was our original pH curve. So in this original pH curve, it is mentioned that we have increased our suction vapor superheating. We have superheated our suction vapor. Okay, so this here is our suction vapor 0.1. So since we have superheated it, so this will happen in constant pressure. So point from 1 it will move to 0.1 dash. Okay, now this will compressed to point here, let's say it 2 dash, and from 2 dash it is again like heat is released to surrounding, it is sent to your, where it will be sent to, it is sent to your condenser. Okay, now you should know that and that when we draw pH diagram, if we talk about our like superheated lines, so from here let me like draw it one more time. So these lines are divergent here, okay? So these lines are divergent, okay? So this point will be our 2 dash, okay? So now we will like see what are these effects, okay? Okay, and one more thing, if we will be drawing our constant volume lines, so in superheated vapor, so this will be our V1. These are our constant volume lines. I mean specific volume V1, V1 dash. Okay. Now this here, if we talk about like these two curves here, so this is 1 dash, okay. So this change in temperature delta T is our T1 dash minus T1, and this here exactly is what is called our degree of superheating. Okay, so to what degree the suction vapor pressure vapor is superheated. Okay, now if we see the effects, then from here, now let's say that these conditions are like this superheating is happening inside evaporator. The superheating of our suction vapor is happening inside evaporator. In that case, our refrigeration effect will increase. Work to the compressor will also increase. And although this increase in work will be very small, since these lines are divergent, so this work of compressor will increase. Okay, specific volume, if we talk about, then specific volume will also increase, because V1 dash is greater than V1. Okay, and since that's the case, we can say that compressor size is also increased. Okay, now if we talk about volumetric efficiency, so in volumetric efficiency, so in the volumetric efficiency, our P2 and P1 both are same, so this atomic volume will remain same. Okay, now if we talk about COP, then both refrigeration effect and work input are increasing. Now the COP will increase or decrease depend upon how much amount our compressor and refrigeration effect are increasing or decreasing. Okay, so in case of our R134A, if we talk about R134, so in case of R134, our COP increases, and in case of R22 and ammonia, that is NH3, our COP value decreases. Okay, now let's consider another, like for this we have like consider that the superheating is occurring inside the evaporator. Okay, now earlier we have discussed it inside that superheating was inside the evaporator. Now we will say that superheating outside evaporator. Okay, so in this case, what will happen? We will see effect on refrigeration effect. We will see effect on work done by compressor. Okay, we will see how the COP varies. Okay, so this, if we see the refrigeration effect, this will be remain same. Okay, H1 minus H4 in both cases. Work done on compressor will surely increase in both cases, and COP value, since our refrigeration effect remains same, and work done by compressor increases, COP value is decrease. Okay, I hope you get this all well. Okay, now like above, if we talk about specific volume, since in this case also it will increase, and compress, so will the compressor size. Okay, eta volumetric in this case will also remain same. Okay, so this is our third condition, that is effect of suction vapor superheat. Now if we talk about next operating condition which we can vary, then fourth one is effect of subcooling, liquid subcooling. Effect of liquid subcooling. Okay, so let's consider this graph again. Okay, so what happens in case of so let me write 3 here and this 4 here. Okay, so what happens in this case, that our liquid is subcooled. So liquid is exited, condenser exit is is at state 3, so it is subcooled, so it will move at constant pressure from 3 to 3 dash. Okay, now from 3 dash it will be throttled. Okay, the pressure is reduced. Okay, it reaches point 4 dash, and from 4 dash to 1 it is then heat is absorbed in our evaporator. Okay, so from here we can say that this amount, that is delta T is equal to T3 minus T3 dash, is called our degree of subcooling. Okay, now in this case if we look into our refrigerant effect, so then this refrigerant effect we see that it increases. Okay, work done by compressor remains same. Okay, this V will also remain same because there is no change here. Okay, so we will just remove it here. Okay, now if we talk about volumetric efficiency, will always also remain same, because we are not doing anything. We are not doing anything to our compressor inlet. Okay, so if we talk about COP, so we can see here that since our efficient factor increases and the work done compressor remains same, so COP will also increase. Okay, so these four are the most basic, if we see the effect, the variations which we can do in our VCRS cycle. Okay, now in these four effects we see that while decreasing the evaporator pressure, our COP decreases. Increasing the condenser pressure also result in decrease in COP. If when we increase the suction vapor, when we superheat the suction vapor to the compressor, we see that COP may increase or decrease depending upon your conditions. Okay, inside the evaporator, of course. And when we see the effect of liquid subcooling, we see that our COP will definitely increase. Okay, liquid vapor heat exchanger. Liquid vapor heat exchanger. Okay, so in case of liquid vapor heat exchanger, it is also called LVHE. So how we will see how is this attached to our system. Okay, and how our PV and TS and pH curves changes in the presence of this liquid vapor heat exchanger. Okay, so in liquid vapor heat exchanger, first we have to we will include both of these effects, subcooling and superheating. Okay, and this superheating will be outside that of your evaporator. Okay, this subcooling won't be happening in the your evaporator, so from here you will see that COP will always decrease. And one more thing, the most important, why it is important to use liquid vapor heat exchanger. So we see from here point 1, if we use normal refrigerator, we will get the entry of the compressor at point 1. Okay, but at point 1 there is chance that it might not reach point 1, it might remain here somewhere in wet region. In that case, our water vapor will also enter into compression. Okay, and since water will be present, there will be corrosion. Okay, so to prevent that, so to prevent the wear and tear of your compressor, and what we do, we decide to superheat your refrigerant first to and point 1 dash. Okay, and from there we will compress it. Okay, so it will ensure that inside your compressor there is no liquid particle available. Okay, I hope you get this point. Okay, now I will moving to LVHE. So I will be drawing where how LVHE is attached to the system. Okay, so let's say this is our condenser first. Condenser. Okay, sorry, condenser. Okay, so this condenser will be connected to our compressor. Okay, so let's say this is our compressor. So this is our compressor. Okay, so this is and the compressor is also in interaction with here at compression. Let's say this is our compressor entry, okay, state 1 dash, and this is compressor exit state 2. Okay, now 2 dash. Okay, and here we will attach our liquid vapor heat exchanger. Okay, so this is our, let's say, so here let's say attached is our evaporator. Okay, evaporator. Okay, so here it is connected to our evaporator. Evaporator exit, we have superheated the steam, so it's not steam as here the refrigerant. Okay, now from condenser exit, the refrigerant superheated, it will be at high temperature. Okay, so what we have done, we will like use it to interact with your inlet refrigerant. Okay, so here a heat transfer will take place between your condenser output and that of compressor input. Okay, and here we will attach a throttling device, let's say here only, or we will okay, so this is our throttle. Okay, so this is our 1 dash your compressor, this is our compressor inlet, and 2 dash is compressor outlet, and after compressor outlet, it will enter our condenser, and the condenser will exit it at point 3. Okay, now at point 3 we will use this condenser output at point 3 to use it to interact with your evaporator output, that is point 1, to heat exchange heat between them. So this is our liquid vapor heat exchanger. Okay, and after that, like this is point 1 evaporator exit, and then after at the exit of LVHE, for compressor input we obtain 1 dash, and for condenser output we obtain 3 dash. Okay, and this 3 dash will be throttled to the state of 4 dash. Okay, so we have here in this we have included all the both your effect of liquid subcooling and effect of suction vapor superheat outside the evaporator. Okay, now if we want to draw your PV and pH and TS cycles, we can draw it here. So these are our original cycles. Okay, now if we want to include this liquid vapor heat exchanger, so our cycle will be modified as like from process 1 to 1 dash there will be superheating 1 dash. Okay, and this superheating will be at same pressure that of, so let me draw it here first. Okay, and this is the constant pressure line, so this is point 2 dash, and of course this is point 2 original point, and then this liquid at exit will be subcooled. Okay, so then at 3 it will be subcooled to our point 3 dash, and 3 dash to port 4 dash it will be throttled. Okay, 3 dash to 4 dash. Okay, let's connect these points first. Okay, So I hope you get this. And now if we want to draw it here, so we can draw it. Okay, so the at point 1 it is superheated to point 1 dash. Okay, and here it will be like this, point 2 dash. Okay, so 1 dash to 2 dash, 2 dash to, now it will reach until point now here this liquid will be subcooled to shade 3 dash. Okay, and from 3 dash it will be throttled to point 4 dash, and from 4 dash it will be sent to your evaporator, where it will be moved from point 4 to point 1. Okay, and from 1 to 1 dash is again outside evaporator. Okay, so from these both cycles we can say that process, if we talk about processes, so we can say that process 1 2 3 4 cycle 1 2 3 4 1 is without liquid vapor heat exchanger. Okay, and if we include liquid vapor heat exchanger, we will get cycle 1 dash 2 dash 3 dash 4 dash again to 1 dash. Okay, this is our using liquid vapor heat exchanger. Okay, now from these plots we can write 2 points. First is subcooling effect. Subcooling effect will be from point 3 to 3 dash, that is S3 minus H3 dash. Okay, and if we talk about superheating effect, it will be from point 1 to 1 dash, so H1 dash minus H1. Okay, now if we apply, okay, let me move it upward first. Okay, so if we applying energy balance for liquid vapor heat exchanger, if we apply energy balance, we can say and assuming that no heat is lost at the process adiabatic, so we can say that subcooling effect is equal to superheating effect. So we can write S3 minus S3 dash is equal to H1 dash minus H1. Okay, so this condition can be used to calculate the unknown. Okay, if one point is unknown, so you can use this equation here to calculate your unknown value. Okay, now we will look into your advantages and disadvantages of this process. Okay, now if we talk about advantages, so we can say that here what happens, that due to superheating of your inlet vapor to compressor, as I have told earlier, that the wet they will guarantee that there will be no wet liquid inside the compressor which will be harmful. Okay, for it. Okay, no vapor inside compressor, sorry, no liquid inside compressor. Okay, second point if we talk about is the refrigeration effect increases, and it increases by amount H4 minus H4 dash. Okay, refrigeration effect increases. Third point if we talk about, we can say that since the subcooling is performed in heat exchanger, so our condenser condenser size, like in condenser, if we have to if we have to perform subcooling, so the total H2 minus H3 dash should be performed in your condenser. But what happens here, since S3 to H3 dash is performed in heat exchanger, so from H2 dash to S3 is only H2 dash to S3 is performed in your condenser. Okay, so condenser is utilized effectively. Okay, Now if we talk about next point, if you're this point 1 to point 1 dash, if it is done inside your evaporator, so your in this case, in case of superheating in your evaporator, so this h1 minus h1 dash minus h1 process, so this temperature increase will be this will take place, this transfer will take place at a higher temperature, okay. And by if you use your heat exchanger, so this transfer of heat between 3 dash and 1 dash can be done at lower temperature, that is your T1, okay. So these are the advantages. So if we talk about disadvantage, there are quite disadvantages also. So first is work by compressor increases in, okay. The second, so discharge temperature, that is T2 dash is greater than T2. So our after compression, the compressor material should be made to attain so that it can withstand the new temperature limit, okay, that is T2 dash, okay. So third point is COP might decrease, or increase, anything can happen, as I told earlier, that in case of cooling, so COP is increasing. In case of superheating, suction vapor superheating inside evaporator, the outside evaporator, the COP is decreasing, okay. So here it might increase or decrease, and nothing is sure, okay. Now if we so here we know that since V1 dash is greater than V1, so compressor size will increase, okay, larger compressor required. So these are few advantages and disadvantages of your liquid vapor heat exchanger, okay. Now there are some limitations of your simple vapor compression refrigeration system. So we will see about limitations of simple VCRS. Okay, so in case of simple VCRS, as we increase the pressure ratio, if we increase the value of pressure ratio, so from here we see that our volumetric efficiency decreases, okay. Hence you say that size of system required will also increases. So since volumetric efficiency decreases, so for the same mass flow rate, our system size increases, okay. Next, we also know that due to this increase, our work done by compressor or work done on compressor is increases, okay. If we talk about reflection effect, this reflection effect decreases, okay, as we have seen in both cases where evaporator pressure was decreased or condensation pressure was increased. In both the cases, your reflection effect was decreasing, okay. So these are the these are the limitations when we when we use high pressure ratio or pressure ratio increases, okay. So VCRS is simple VCRS is only applicable for low pressure ratio systems, okay. Now to overcome this, we have two methods. To overcome this, we have two solutions to overcome. So first is we use flash gas removal. So in case of flash gas removal, we do what we do, since the pressure ratio is high, so we do compression in two processes: two-step compression and two-step throttle, okay. And second way is flash intercooling. Okay, so in flash intercooling, what we do, here there are two-step compression. Here it is also two-step compression and two-step throttle, okay. So let me write it first. So exactly these two steps are followed here also. Okay, copy and paste. Now, what is the difference? The in case of flash gas removal, we throttle it between for different temperatures. Okay. Okay. Let me in further. I will explain each of these flash gas removal and flash intercooling in detail. Okay. So, but before that, when we talk about our compressor in power plant, when we will study, so when we will talk about our compression, let's suppose an compression process. Let's say this is our PV chart. Okay, and this is our compression process. Okay, let's say adiabatic compression. Okay, this is our adiabatic compression. Okay, now if it is an open system, then area under this curve will be our work done by the compressor. Okay, let's say this is from 1 to 2. Okay, now there is a concept of intercooling, after compressing the air to a certain intermediate pressure, we will intercool it and then further compress it again. Okay, so let's consider that also. Okay, so from here I will doing I will compressing the air from point 1 to point, let's say it I. Okay, and the pressure at this point I is given by P1 Pi, sorry, here it is P1, here it is P2. Okay, now at Pi, what I will do, I will cool the air first. Okay, so I have cooled it and reached this point. Okay, and from this point I will compress it again. Okay, it is compressed to point 2 dash. Okay, now we can see that this region, this area of the curve, this is the work saved due to intercooling. And so we can say that for any compression pressure, if we want to decrease the work, we can do it in 2 steps: step 1 and stage 2. 2-stage compression, this is also known as multi-stage compression. Okay, and if we do it in more than 2 steps, then the reduction in the work input will be more. Okay, but what happens in that case, our production cost will be very not production cost, our initial cost of the system will be very high. Okay, and that is not advisable for low cost systems. Okay, we will do that only when required, and that we will study in our power plant subject. Okay, here what I'm trying to tell you, that if we do multi-staging, we will do, if we do compression in two stages, our work input to the compressor, to both compressor combined, will decrease. Okay, so this condition we have applied here also, because I mentioned that in VCRS, simple VCRS, the limitation is when pressure ratios increases, our volumetric efficiency increases, and so does the size of the compression increases. Okay, so due to this, we have to overcome this, we have used this multi-staging. Okay, in multi-staging we will use two compressor, and we will do our throttling in 2 steps also. Okay, but for for flash gas removal and flash intercooling, these are 2 different topics, and we will see one by one what are these what are the that topic indicates. Okay, but before that, let's see what is our flash chamber, what happens in flash chamber. Okay, so if we talk about flash chamber, so this is a diagram of our flash tank. Okay, or flash chamber we can also call it. So this is our liquid refrigerant. Okay, and this is it will be our vapor refrigerant. Okay, now what happens that from condenser we throttle this into the flash tank or flash chamber. Okay, so this flash chamber is available between your evaporator and condenser. Okay, so when we throttle it, after throttling, we will from condenser, let's say pressure is P6. Okay, here pressure is P7, and this pressure P7 is less than P6 after throttling. Okay, and at this point we have like installed a float to measure the level of this liquid refrigerant. Okay, now according to mass flow rate, the it will like, if the liquid level rises, it means that the mass flow rate here is, mass flow rate in here motion is less. Okay, so it will so our, so what will it does do, it will increase your mass flow rate. Okay, so this load basically controls our mass flow rate inside the uh, our system. Okay, now after the flash tank, the liquid refrigerant will be sent to directly to evaporator. Okay, now this vapor, if we send this vapor refrigerant into the evaporator, then it won't do anything. Okay, because it is already in the vapor state. Only liquid refrigerant will be converted to vapor inside our evaporator. Okay, so what we'll do, we will directly send this vapor refrigerant to the compressor, and this liquid refrigerant, after expanding again to the evaporator pressure, we will send it to evaporator. Okay, now if we want to draw let's say pH curve for this, so we will draw pH curve for this. Okay, if we indicate pH curve, so this is our dome. Okay, now for flash chamber, if we like say this is 0.6, okay, from condenser output. Okay, from condenser we have throttled it to certain point. Okay, now here we have reached 0.7. Okay, now from 0.7, what we have done, we didn't directly throttle it to 0.8, but we have taken the liquid refrigerant at that pressure. Okay, at this pressure we have taken liquid refrigerant which is at state 8 to state 9 after throttling. Okay, to state 9 after throttling, and then we have to send it to our evaporator. Okay, and this is the condenser. Okay, okay, so this is what is represented here. Okay, I hope you get this point. Okay, okay, so thank you. Next we will be moving to, now one thing I forgot to mention here. So this will 6 to 7 throttle, then 7 to 8 like this conversion into this liquid refrigerant. Okay, now this is 8 to 9 throttle again, and 9 to this is evaporator. Okay, and here it is coming from condenser. Okay, now one more point which you would like to mention, that from 7 it is also moving to compressor, that is zero point 0.3. Okay, so this is our 0.3, that is in at the same pressure, it is at vapor phase. Okay, so this is represented by 0.3, and at 0.3 it will be connected to our compressor. Okay, at this pressure 3 only. Okay, now we will be moving, and first we will see our gas removal. So let me write the topic here: flash gas removal. Okay, if we talk about flash gas removal, so this is the diagram for our like schematic for our flash gas removal. So here from condenser the heat is like the refrigerant is exiting at state 6. Okay, and after that it is throttled to our flash chamber. Okay, now since it is throttled to flash chamber, and after flash chamber the liquid refrigerant it is again throttled to evaporator pressure, and the vapor refrigerant is directly sent to compressor at higher pressure. Okay, so what happens that next the evaporator exit refrigerant which is in vapor state is compressed from compressor 1 and reaches to this pressure, where this pressure will be equal to your flash chamber pressure, and the pressure after like after first throttling. Okay, so after this both the like output of compressor 1 and flash chamber vapor refrigerant will enter compressor 2, and it will reach to pressure of condenser. Okay, so if you want to represent it on pH diagram, okay, so if we want to drive it in pH diagram, let's say this is P, this is H. Okay, and this is our dome. Okay, sorry about that. this is our dome. Okay, or we can, sorry, let me draw it again. Okay, so this is our dome. Okay, so we can say that the exiting if we want to say the condenser exit 6, so we know that point 6 will lie somewhere here. Okay, so let's say this is our condenser pressure. Okay, so let's draw first. Let's draw, this is our condenser pressure. This is our condenser pressure. Okay, now this is our evaporator pressure, sorry, flash chamber pressure. This is our flash chamber pressure, and this here is our evaporator pressure. Okay, now let me move this to incorporate all the lines inside this. Okay, so I think this will work. Okay, now so these are our three pressure lines. Okay, these pressure lines are pressure to condenser, pressure to flash chamber, and pressure of evaporator. Okay, so if we want to draw our lines, so let's draw. So this is the pressure, this is the point 6, which will be like at condenser exit. Okay, and after that we have throttled the fluid and it has reached 0.7. Okay, at 0.7 we have like extracted its heat to reach at 0.8, that is at our saturated liquid state. Okay, and from 8 we have again throttled it to 0.9. Okay, after 0.9 it is sent to evaporator and it exit in evaporator at 0.1. Okay, and from 0.1 to 0.2 is the work of our compressor 1. The exit of compressor 1 is at 2. Okay, and from 2 what happens that it reaches the, like after it like moves to second at the inlet of compressor 2, so this 0.4, sorry, 0.2 and 0.3 meet to make 0.4, and this is our 0.3. Okay, so the vapor phase refrigerant at flash chamber pressure will move here, and this will be our 0.3. Okay, and this 2 and 3 will combine to make a mean pressure, that is 4, and this will like, okay, I hope you get till there. Now from 4 we have again sent it to compressor 2, so it will expand again. Okay, so it has expanded to 0.5. Okay, then 5 to 6 it is in our condenser. Okay, I hope you understood this diagram. Okay, so this is for flash gas removal system. Okay, in flash gas removal system, as the name represent, we have represented gas removal. Okay, so the gas here, the vapor phase here is removed from the system earliest possible. Okay, now if we want to say see what are the effect of your flash gas removal, sorry, if we want to see the effect of flash gas removal, so we can see that refrigeration effect is increasing. This is our effect of refrigeration effect is increasing. Okay, next we can say a decrease in pressure ratio for each compressor. For each compressor your pressure ratio is decreasing. Okay, earlier it was PC upon PE, but now it is divided into 2 parts. Okay, and we can say that since like refrigeration effect is increasing and work input is overall decreasing, so we can say our COP is also increasing. Okay, so what happens in these 3 points, that is refrigeration effect increases. Okay, next point is our pressure ratio decreases, ratio of each compressor is decreases. Next we can say that COP increases. Okay, next we will be moving to our next that is second one, that is flash intercooling. Flash intercooling. Okay, so this is our schematic of flash intercooling. So in flash gas removal, what we are doing, we were removing the vapor inside this vapor effluent inside the flash chamber. But in flash intercooling, what we will be doing, we will like also there is inclusion of flash chamber, but after the evaporator, after the first compressor, we will like outlet of first compressor will be set directly into flash chamber. Okay, here, okay, one more thing, like in this graph, if you see here, if there was some wet compression here, some liquid particles here, like at evaporator exit, this will also remain here. Okay, and this will exactly move to compressor 2. Okay, now in our flash intercooling system, if there is some liquid particle remaining, then it will remain inside this flash chamber only, and only vapor from flash chamber 2 is moving to here. Okay, and one more thing, that inside the evaporator, it definitely had gained some heat. Okay, and it will release this heat inside this flash chamber, and when the heat is released, this like vapor will generate from there, and more vapors will generate, and this vapor will move to compressor number 2. Okay, compressor 2. Okay, sorry about that, compressor 2. Okay, so now if we want to draw our plot for this, like pH graph, if we want to draw for this, if we want to draw pH graph, so this is our outline for pH plot, and these are, like I mentioned earlier, these are condenser pressure, flash chamber pressure, and evaporator pressure. Okay, now if we want to draw the cycle, so we know that this is 0.5 hour, this is 0.5. Okay, condenser exit, and it is throttle to 0.6, throttle to point number 6. Okay, now from we also know that from like one part is throttle to point number 6, and another part is throttle to point number 7. Okay, also here. Okay, so this is our point number 7. Okay, now it has reached your evaporator pressure. Okay, I hope you understood this point, what I am saying, that. Okay, now like a small mass fraction of our condenser exit is throttle initially, such that it reaches a flash chamber. Okay, and rest was as it is sent to our evaporator after throttling. Okay, now this mass which have been like previously removed. Okay, so this will be after in this process, it will reach state 3 at the exit. Okay, so this is our exit, state 3. Okay, now from 7 to 1 it will be in evaporator, 7 to 1 in evaporator, and from point 1 it will be compressed to point 2, from point 1 to point 2. Okay, at point 2 what happens, that it again enters the flash chamber. Okay, so at point 2 it reaches point 3, after point 2 it reaches point 3. Okay, 2 to 3 total. Okay, now at point 3, after point 3 it is compressed again until it reaches the pressure, sorry, 4, pressure point 4, state 4. Okay, now from 4 to 1 it is processed in a condenser. Okay, now if we can see that it is basically divided into 2 cycles here. Okay, so let's say that mass flow rate, that mass m, let's say that here at condenser exit the mass was m2. Okay, and at evaporator entry, like here the mass was m1, so at this throttle point we will get mass is equal to m2 minus m1. Okay, so if you see in here again, we have like first compressed from compressor 1, then we have intercooled the liquid, then we have compressed it again. Okay, so here also effect of intercooling is assumed. Okay, now one more thing, what are you mentioning, that mass flow rate. Okay, so mass flow rate m2 is exit from condenser, so in upper loop the mass flow rate m2 is circulating, and in lower loop mass m1 is circulating. Okay, m1 is throttled from point 6 to 7, or like is directly from this point to this point. Okay, and then 7 to 1 mass is still m1 from compressor 1, which is point 2. Okay, Now this M1 is also sent to our flash chamber, okay, that is point 3, sorry, not point 3, that is entered into flash chamber, okay. Now if we see that the exit, now if we talk about exit, then this exit is also M2, although it will be M2 minus M1, that is entering from here, plus M1 entering more from here, total will be again M2, okay, total here will be again M2. So again in upper, like throttle 1, if not in throttle 1, from 5, and then compressor 1 and condenser, their mass flow rate is M2, okay. I hope you get this point, okay. Now there is one thing that we get here. If we want to, like in both the cases, okay, if we want to calculate our intermediate pressure, so optimum for complete intercooling, if like here it is complete intercooling, okay. In the previous case the cooling was not complete, okay, it was stopped in midway only, okay. There was a mixing of both vapor phases, so the cooling was not complete, okay. Here if there is perfect intercooling, if we talk about perfect intercooling, we get Pi is equal to Pc into Pe, or Pe power 1/2, okay. And this flash chamber also known as Pi, okay, intermediate pressure, okay. Now like here it was mentioned that this was for perfect intercooling, okay. Wait a minute. This was for perfect intercooling, okay. Now if we talk in this case, here intercooling was not perfect, so we can use the expression Pi is equal to Pc into Pe into Tc by Te, okay, power 1/2, okay. I hope you understood these 2 points, okay. Last topic for VCRS, that is cascade system, okay. Now in cascade system, it is used in case of, like if we have to use multiple fluids, multiple refrigerant in our system, okay. Or basically above to mentioned system, there are some certain limitations. And what are these limitations? If we want to talk about, then since, like we can say that if the same refrigerant is flowing in both like complete size system, then our critical point and the freezing point, the differences should be quite high, okay. It should be very high critical temperature, and very high very low freezing point, okay. Only then will it be operating inside our range, okay. Now the next is like we can say that lubricant from compressor 1 can be transferred to compressor 2, okay. Next we can, what else can we say? And why will the lubricant move from compressor 1 to compressor 2? Because refrigerant is same in both cases. Refrigerant from compressor 1 is moving to compressor 2, okay. What else we can say? If our like if the refrigerant is low boiling, then if we like in condenser, low boiling refrigerant will create very high pressure, okay. If the boiling point is low, then while it reaches the condenser pressure, then its specific volume will be increased by by very much, okay. And at that point the pressure will increase by corresponding pressure is also increasing, okay. And similarly if the like at extremely low pressure in the evaporator will lead to high suction vacuum, okay. So these are such certain problems which arises in our operation with single refrigerant, okay, in case of our high pressure issue, okay. So for that case we use our cascade refrigeration, okay. So in cascade refrigeration we use basically 2 refrigerators, okay. Evaporator for one refrigerator act as a condenser for another refrigerator, okay. So let me draw the diagram first. So this is our condenser, condenser. Let's say it is a T3, okay, and it is connected to our here our compressor. It is connected to our compressor, high temperature, high pressure, okay, high temperature cascade. This is okay. So this is connected to compressor, and compressor is further connected to our evaporator, and here it is a throttling device, okay. So this here will like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and 0.4, okay. States, these will be states, okay. Now one more thing in this evaporator. So as I told you earlier that evaporator of one system acts as condenser for another system, okay. Now there will be another system here attached to this system, okay, and here this is for this system. This evaporator is will act as condenser, and it is further attached to a compressor, and that will be attached to a evaporator. Okay, so here we have installed a multi-stage refrigeration system, okay. So this is called our cascading, okay. I hope you understood this point. So let's say this temperature here is T2 and this temperature is T3, okay. So if we want to like calculate our total COP, combined COP, so COP1 we can write COP, or let's say this is our first loop, first refrigerant cycle, this is our second refrigerant cycle, okay, and this is our first compressor, second compressor. Let's say heat interaction from here to be Q1, let's say heat interaction here to be Q2, and heat interaction from here to be Q3, okay. So we can write that COP of 1 is equal to desired effect Q2 upon work input Q1 minus Q2. I hope you understood this point, okay. Now COP for 2 we can write as COP for 2 is equal to Q3 upon Q2 minus Q3, okay. That is refrigeration effect upon your work input, okay. Now so this is also can be written as Q2 upon W1, and this is written as Q3 upon W2, okay. So if we are talking about COP, overall COP, so overall COP can be like written as net heat interaction. So net heat, so if we consider the whole system, then only this evaporator is our required desired output, okay. So we'll write Q3 upon net work, that is work done 1 plus work done by compressor number 2, okay, and this can be further written as Q3 upon, and this work done 1 can be written as Q1 minus Q2 plus work done 2 can be written as Q2 minus Q3, okay. So this is our expression for overall COP, and if we want to like follow this total, so this can be written as Q3 upon Q2 will cancel out Q2, Q1 minus Q3, okay, and we can say, and this is COP, so we can write 1 by COP is equal to Q1 by Q3 minus Q3 minus 1, and we can further write it as we can write Q3 minus Q1 minus Q1 by Q3. We can write it as so here we can write so if we look into equation of COP2, so from here we can write that Q3 is equal to Q2 minus Q3, or we can, or let's not write it here. So using let me create some space here first, okay. I'm moving this here, okay. So from here I can write our Q2 is equal to COP 1 times of Q1 minus COP 1 times of. So from this COP1 equation we can write Q2 is equal to COP 1 times of Q1 minus COP 1 times of Q2. Okay, from here we can find our value of Q2 is equal to, or Q2 sorry, we need value of Q1 and Q3. Okay, so since we need the value of Q1, we can calculate Q1 is equal to, so that term we will move to this side, Q2 times of 1 plus COP1 divided by COP1. Okay, so this is our value of Q1. Okay, next if we use this equation, so from this equation we can write Q3 is equal to COP2 times of Q2 minus COP2 times of Q3. Okay, so from here we have term Q1 and Q3, we have calculated the term Q1, we have calculated the term Q3 from here. So Q3 is equal to we can find Q3 is equal to Q2 times of COP2 divided by 1 plus COP2. Okay, now we will substitute both the value of Q1 and Q3 in this equation. So from here we will get 1 by COP is equal to Q1 by Q3. So if we divide both, so Q2 and Q2 will cancel each other. It will result in COP1 by COP1 into 1 plus COP2 divided by COP2 minus 1, as it was mentioned here. Okay, now if we solve this, so we will get 1 upon COP is equal to, after multiply this we will get COP1, so we will get COP1 plus COP2, and what will happen that here if we multiply it by this, so we will get plus, like earlier we should have gotten 2 times of I mean this will be COP1 plus COP2 plus and 1 plus COP1 plus COP2 plus COP1 plus COP1 into COP2, and this is minus, on taking LCM this is both term will cancel, and here will you get 1 plus COP1 COP2 plus COP2 upon COP1 into COP2. Okay, now we can directly write the value of COP. So we will get COP is equal to, COP for cascade system is given by COP1 into COP2 upon 1 plus COP1 plus COP2. Okay, so this is our relation for COP of a cascade system. Okay, so with this we will be completing our lecture today on this topic. Now in next lecture we will be attending a question session 2 on all the questions related to vapor compression refrigeration system. Okay, thank you for today.